Well, Tuesday's Reds game got rained out early, but that doesn't mean there wasn't anything to talk about on tonight's edition of Chatterbox Reds. Welcome in, everybody. Craig Sandlin here alongside my friend Nick Kirby. Nick, how are we feeling tonight?
Doing good, Craig. I thought we were just gonna come on and chat a little bit with the game rained out, talk a little bit about your experience with the Louisville Bats, but then Reds news just kept coming in all Tuesday night. So plenty to talk about today. Looking forward to it.
That's right. We spent the last week trying to plan out which game I should go to between the Bats and the Memphis Redbirds. Decided to go tonight. Ended up not necessarily being the best night to go to, but still a lot of fun. My daughter got a ball, got to high five Reese Hines. And speaking of Reese Hines, tonight's DSC deep drive of the game, Nick.
Was definitely Reese Hines. Yeah. Our DSC deep drive of the day, Reese Hines at his fifth home run of the season, 99.7 off the bat, 374 feet. But it wasn't even his hardest hit ball of the day. We'll talk more about that later, Craig. But as always, our deep drive of the day is proudly sponsored by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC.
And that was indeed a no doubter off the bat of Reese Hines. Shout out to him for acknowledging my daughter after the game, and shout out to him for the home run. Well, the Reds got rained out on Tuesday evening, but there was action from around the NL Central. Nick, catch us up on where we stand in the action recap from Tuesday night.
Yeah, just two games because the Cubs and Pirates played each other, and the Reds and Cardinals were supposed to play each other, but Cubs won 9-0 over the Pirates, and the Brewers, they won 7-2 over the White Sox. So your NL Central standings on Wednesday morning. Cubs lead the way at 18-12. Reds 16-13, now a game and a half back. Brewers 15-15, they're 3 back. Cardinals 12-17, 5.5 back. And the Pirates 11-19, they are 7 games back.
Reds sitting a game and a half back of the NL Central at this point. I think given the standings and everybody's expectations for the Cubs coming into this season and the fact that they're sitting at 18-12, I think a lot of people would be pretty surprised and happy to see that the Reds were only a game and a half back. But Nick, some news for sure from the Reds front office today. It started coming in this afternoon. It starts with Austin Hayes, an injury that we weren't really even aware of. Sounds like injured it Monday night, right? What's the latest with Hayes?
Yeah, Hayes had a hamstring injury. He's awaiting results on an MRI. By the time you're listening to this on Wednesday morning or watching this on YouTube, you may have an update. So we're just going off what we have at 12:57 a.m. Eastern time as we record this. But yeah, Austin Hayes, another injury from him. Injured it rounding third. They said it was his fastest sprint speed time of the year, so maybe overdoing it a little bit. They said it's minor, but again, I'm not going to get too optimistic about it being minor. But, unfortunate with Hayes, it's just, man, he's been incredible on the field. He's been as incredible as you could be, but just felt like it's been something after another so far with Hayes, and hopefully just a bump in the road early, but definitely some reason for some caution and some worry there because the Reds need Hayes. Yeah. There's no question about it.
Absolutely, Austin Hayes has brought the pop that everybody knew the Reds needed in the outfield. Over the last week, Austin Hayes, 1.274 OPS, number 6 in all of the MLB. Definitely been bringing a pop to the bat that the Reds desperately needed. And quite frankly, Nick, they desperately needed it because Jeimer Candelario, who was expected to provide some power, has not been bringing it so far this year. I'm not going to go as far as to call it the phantom injury that some are calling it, but nonetheless, Jeimer Candelario sounds like he's nursing an injury as well. What's going on with Candelario?
I will go as far as to say it is likely a phantom IL stent. What are they calling it? A lower back injury. Yeah. I believe the wording was Candelario came in and told us that he had an injury. So again, I think a lot of people are going to react to that. Jeimer's got benched. He wants to go on the IL, or he's trying to make excuses. That's not at all how I view it. I honestly view it as Jeimer Candelario doing the Reds a massive solid here, because you can't just put someone on the IL. I know there's this narrative that you can, and I don't know exactly how all those conversations work, but I know it's significantly harder than it used to be. The Mets, of course, had a GM get fired over that, and had a whole ordeal about that. So the Reds were stuck. I mean, there's really nothing they can do other than straight up cut Jeimer Candelario and eat all of the money. There's nothing they can do. They can't send him to Triple-A. And so if Candelario says, hey, my back's hurting, he's smart enough to know that if he goes on the IL, that allows him to go down to Triple-A, go on a rehab assignment, drag this thing out a little bit more, and get the Reds a better player up. So that's what I assume is going to happen here. And to be honest, this is a great thing from Jeimer Candelario. I'm sure the Reds front office is jumping for joy. I don't know. Maybe someone, I don't know exactly how these things work. Maybe, there was someone that said something to his agent kind of quietly and it got filtered back to Jeimer, but he has to go along with it, right? No matter how it is. So him going on the IL is the best thing for the Reds. And, I saw someone say, well, what is Jeimer Candelario going to do? Jeimer Candelario could say, you're paying me. You have to leave me on the roster or cut me. And if the Reds cut him, he gets every single penny he's owed, and he does not have to do a single thing. He can go home. He can go lay on the beach, collect $30 million over the next 2 years. So, I'm not going to go overboard. Jeimer Candelario is some big hero because of this, but he is absolutely doing the Reds a solid here, assuming this is how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where we heard yesterday, or I guess on Sunday, maybe even at this point, I can't remember exactly when we heard it, but we heard rumors or reports that Terry Francona had a conversation with Jeimer Candelario about his role with this team moving forward and what his expectations should be. We don't know exactly what was communicated to Candelario at that point, but it sounded like, to me at least, and I think you share this sentiment, that it sounded like hey, Jeimer, you're not playing well enough to play right now, so you should be preparing yourself mentally for an opportunity to ride the bench, because you're not going to get a whole lot of plate appearances based on how you're performing right now. And funny enough, so of course, a day or 2 days later, Jeimer Candelario comes in, and as you said, Charlie Goldsmith reported it as, quote, Jeimer Candelario spoke up today about a lower back issue that he's been dealing with. So I don't know if that's in response to that conversation that he had with Terry Francona 2 days ago, or if it legitimately was a back injury that he's been dealing with, or what it may be. But bottom line is that Jeimer Candelario was not going to be a major contributor to this Reds team in the near future based on how he had performed. So, as you said, an opportunity for him to maybe step aside, take an IL stint, do some side work on his own, try to find a swing, because we do know that Jeimer Candelario, when he gets hot, can be one of the better hitters in this Reds lineup. The problem is you can't continue to ride him a month into the season and continue to hope that things turn around without any change. So give an opportunity, take this IL stint, get some work in on your own, go down to Louisville, get some work in there against live pitching, and see what you can figure out, because as it's set right now, he wasn't really helping anybody. And obviously one of the biggest challenges here, and the unfortunate part, is that Jeimer Candelario isn't the only Reds first baseman who's nursing an injury. And so a position that should be hopefully a strength for many teams, for now, right now, is really the Reds' biggest weakness. And it's, of course, amplified by the fact that Christian Encarnacion Strand is also on the IL right now with a lower back injury. And speaking of Encarnacion Strand, we did get an update from Terry about CES on Tuesday as well. Nick, why don't you fill us in on what the latest is there?
Yeah, just the latest update is that he's going to get another injection for his lower back. So I'm not really gonna hold my breath too much on where CES is at this point. Just unfortunate because I think this guy does have all the talent in the world. But back to Candelario just for a second. Me and Trace talked about it. It was really hard to see a world where Jeimer Candelario was ever able to get back on track in that role of just being a bench guy that plays once a week or whatever. Like, I don't understand how he's ever going to get any sort of rhythm and ever have any chance, even if there is a chance, of him being a contributor. So this is the best thing for him, too, if he ever has any chance of helping the Reds down the road. And when he gets down to Louisville, you're probably going to get a real clear understanding of where he's at. Because if he goes down there and can't hit, then I mean I think you're pretty clear that you do have to go ahead and DFA him. Because he'll have 20. He can have 20 days down there. They can even technically like extend it longer because there's been guys that have gotten close to that 20 days. They go back on the IL for a couple more days and then start a second rehab assignment. So you can drag that out even longer, but you'll get a pretty good idea, I think, of where Jeimer Candelario is at. Now, it doesn't mean if Jeimer Candelario goes down and has 1,000 OPS at Triple-A that's going to for sure translate to big league success. But I think it gives you an opportunity to think there's an actual chance. If he goes down there and looks terrible, then there really probably is no chance of salvaging him. So it'll be good for the Reds just to have at least somewhat of a clear picture on exactly where he is right now.
Well, the challenge is we heard from Charlie Goldsmith on Off the Bench earlier this week as well, talking about Jeimer Candelario and how he's such a feel hitter. And when he doesn't have the feel for it, he's terrible. But when he does have the feel for it, he can be great. He can be a major contributor. He's not going to find the feel for it when he's sitting on the bench, as you mentioned. So this is really the only opportunity for him to kind of get right. And hopefully he takes the opportunity seriously and goes about it in a way that allows him to actually get back to prime Jeimer Candelario, or at least what we saw for stretches last year, because there were times last year, the same thing. He started off really cold and then he got pretty hot in April and May, if I remember correctly. You probably know better than me off the top of your head, but got pretty hot and was one of the Reds' best hitters last year, and then cooled off again towards the end of the year. So the problem is you can't really afford to have that kind of streakiness from a veteran that you're paying $15 million. And I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves and start to have the conversation about what his role is on this team moving forward, or if he even is on the team come 2026. But I do think that has to be part of a serious conversation about whether or not you can afford to continue to give a 40-man spot and an active roster spot to a guy who, quite frankly, just can't contribute in the way that you need. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and just, to wrap it up on that is, yeah, you can't really afford to have Jeimer Candelario holding a 40-man roster spot right now. But you have no idea what the roster is going to look like in a month. This Reds roster, believe it or not, has quite a few players on it that have been injured a few times. And there might be a bunch more injuries. So when Jeimer Candelario, if he goes to Louisville and he hits well, by the time that's over, the Reds roster may be in a much bigger need for anyone that can play first base and DH and have some pop than it is right now. So a lot of can Jeimer Candelario contribute to the Reds in the future is probably going to be dependent on A, the rest of the roster staying healthy, and then B, some of these other guys that have kind of been hot and cold, do they produce or do they kind of go into a spiral at some point? Because there's about 5 guys on this roster that I think the vast majority of Reds fans feel significantly different on April 30th than they did on April 15th.
Well, the other thing that we had to keep in mind, and obviously a lot has to play out still. We're probably getting a little ahead of ourselves, but quite frankly, the Reds have a large number of players who will be Rule 5 eligible this coming off season. And whether it's Jeimer Candelario or somebody else, they're going to have to make decisions about whether or not those players are part of the plan moving forward. Because if they're eligible and they have to be protected and the Reds see them as long-term possibilities and contributors, then certainly the Reds want to find a way to protect them. And ultimately right now there's a lot of guys who I think the Reds would like to keep around coming into this next year. Guys like Luis May, who is Rule 5 eligible this winter. So you want to make sure that you're, Luis May was Rule 5 last year, but there are a number of guys who are Rule 5 eligible that the Reds are going to want to protect. And Jeimer Candelario is eating up one of those spots that would enable them to protect those guys. So, yeah. Anything you want to add on that specifically, Rule 5 or anything else?
No, but yeah, I mean, there's the Reds minor league system is good, and it is going to continue to get harder and harder to have those roster crunches down the line. So yeah, I mean, there might be a point where right now I don't think the 40-man roster is as big of a deal. As the Reds have a few players on the 40-man roster that are certainly expendable in my opinion, but I do think it is going to get significantly harder next year and probably even the year after. Hopefully it gets harder. The harder that your 40-man roster crunch is, the better your organization is.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Jeimer Candelario obviously going down to Triple-A and an IL rehab stint. Currently on a rehab stint in Louisville is Tyler Stephenson. Had a chance to watch him on Tuesday night. But the Reds have a plan for him as well, Nick. What are we expecting out of Tyler Stephenson, and when can we expect to maybe see him back on the Major League club?
Yeah, the Reds kind of give a definitive timeline here. So we caught, of course, on Tuesday night, as you mentioned. He's going to catch again on Wednesday. He's going to DH on Thursday, and then the Reds will make a decision. So they said he was going to go to Memphis on Sunday, but we didn't know if it was going to be the whole series or just the first couple games. And as of right now, it seems like it's going to be the first couple games. And then the Reds will, I guess, if he looks good Wednesday and Thursday and feels good and everything continues to progress, sounds like there's a chance he's probably on the Reds. Maybe not Friday. Maybe they give him like an off day between. They do that for a lot of guys. He goes and joins the Reds on Friday, but then they maybe activate him on Saturday. That would probably be my best guess on a timeline coming up for Stephenson.
You guys have talked at length about Tyler Stephenson, so we don't need to have this whole conversation again tonight, but Stephenson admittedly has not performed exceptionally well in Louisville on this rehab stint so far. Obviously missed a large chunk of time with his injury, and the Reds right now have one of the hottest catching platoons in all of Major League Baseball. So a decision to be made, but what options do they have? Is it either they bring him up to the Major League roster or they put him back on the IL, or what are the options for the Reds come Friday?
I mean, theoretically, they could option Tyler Stephenson at some point to the minors. That's ludicrous to me. I mean, the guy had a 112 WRC plus as a catcher last year. I don't put a whole lot of stock into 6 games in the minor leagues, your numbers. He did have 2 walks on Tuesday, so that's a positive. I also don't put a whole lot of stock into what Trevino and Wins have done offensively, because I don't think either one of those are sustainable. Whatever number that you or any other Reds fan gave me as what they think their OPS will be the rest of the year, I probably would say I'll take the under. I'm just being honest. So my only worry is, does Stephenson mess up anything defensively? And Stephenson took some big strides in 2024 defensively, was significantly better, but he's nowhere near the level defensively that Jose Trevino is. Austin Wins, I don't think the gap, I think Wins is probably a better defensive catcher, but I don't think the gap is that huge. So that's my biggest concern would be, does he mess up anything defensively? But offensively, I would bet anyone that wants to bet me that Tyler Stephenson will have an OPS of 50 points higher than Jose Trevino over the rest of the year. And I don't think it would be even, I might even take 100 points. So, I mean, there's, I think, a huge gap between the two players offensively.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we'll get into all of my observations from the game on Tuesday night later on, but Tyler Stephenson didn't exactly look great tonight watching him. especially at the plate, which obviously you mentioned the 2 walks. I think the eyes are there, but I think he's still trying to find his swing. Very top heavy in his swing right now. Not a whole lot of action happening in the lower body on those swings. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens and how they manage that over the coming days. Look, we mentioned a number of injuries, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen quite yet. Obviously, there's some decisions to be made, but whether it's Jeimer Candelario or Austin Hayes or something we don't know about, what we do know is that the Reds are set to have a couple of debuts made on Wednesday, and it starts with Tyler Callihan, who will be called up to the major league level and ready to make his debut on Wednesday. For those fans that maybe aren't as familiar with Tyler Callihan as you are, even though I know you've been given a lot of updates during the Reds MILB, what do fans need to know about Tyler Callihan, and what can we expect his role to be on this Reds team starting on Wednesday?
Well, I mean, Tyler Callihan is about as deserving of a call-up as I think you'll ever have. So Callihan last year in 2024 started the year at Double-A. Had a really rough start to the year. Had a pretty brutal April into the first week of May. And then by about the time May, I think 7th hit, he was just incredible the rest of the year. Went to the Arizona Fall League, played well in the Arizona Fall League, and then has completely just carried that into this season. I mean, just look at these numbers. So since May 7th, 2024, over 74 games, hitting .324 with a .421 on base percentage, 164 WRC plus. That is an elite level in terms of WRC plus. And in the middle of that, he actually missed 2 months. I believe in late June into August, he missed 2 months injured and just like didn't miss a beat, came right back. He currently is riding a 23-game on base streak. If you actually go back to last year, he's reached base in 58 of the last 60 games. So he's been just an incredible hitter over the last couple years. Does offer some position flexibility. He's played second base, first base, and left field this year. Has not played third base yet, which is a little curious that he hasn't played third base at all. Now, obviously, Noelvi Marte was at Triple-A for a large portion of the year, which is why he probably couldn't get any time at third base. But it is interesting that they didn't, give that to him at all. The biggest flaw probably is his swing and miss. Is striking out in about 27% of his plate appearances, but he makes it for a lot, walking in 15% of his plate appearances. So a little bit more of that 3 true outcome, hitting the ball hard, walking, or striking out. But he's incredibly well-deserving, and I just have to think, Craig, if the Reds front office, when they saw Santiago Espinal supposed to be the starting left fielder on Tuesday night's game that got banged, I have to think that they were like, yeah, we do not want Santiago Espinal starting against a right-handed pitcher in the outfield. Like, that's just not at all what we want. And Tyler, and I think in our Discord literally said at the time, like you have players in the minors that would clearly be better options than as a true outfielder. Callihan's not exactly a true outfielder. He actually was a second baseman but he's been playing left field since last year. You have a lot better options, and Tyler Callihan's that. So how much does Tyler Callihan play, I guess, was the second part of this, Craig. It again depends a lot on everyone else on the roster. I mean, I think you'd like to try to get him in as much as you can against right-handed pitching. I would assume he's probably in the lineup in Game 1 of the doubleheader against the right-handed pitcher Miles Michaelis, probably on the bench in Game 2 against the left-handed pitcher Steven Matz. But it depends how healthy is Austin Hayes, how healthy is Jake Fraley. If either one of those guys aren't 100%, well, Tyler Callihan's going to be playing every day against right-handed pitching. If one of them are, then maybe it's a little bit harder for him to find playing time. But the nice thing is, even if he isn't starting, you're going to have a legitimate weapon off the bench, which the Reds don't really have most nights against a right-handed pitcher, a good weapon off the bench that can hit right-handed pitching well. I mean, right now they've been pretty much running out Austin Wynns, Jeimer Candelario, Santiago Espinal, and Blake Dunn as their bench against right-handed pitching. So Callihan, even if he doesn't start, does give the Reds a big weapon off the bench that can hit the ball to the ballpark or give you a good at-bat.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, every time we get a chance to see a guy in the majors for the first time, it's exciting. Tyler Callihan, as you mentioned, certainly deserving of the opportunity. Confirmed it earlier I guess on Tuesday evening, by the time you're listening to this, on his Instagram, posting it on there that he is on his way up. So excited for him. Whether it's Candy or Hayes, that'll be the corresponding move. We don't know for sure yet. If it was just him, you could try and act like he was going to be the 27th man for the doubleheader, which I don't even know if it can be a position player, but nonetheless, we know it won't be, because also headed to Cincinnati to make their major league debut is a guy that I know you are excited to see. I was hoping to watch tonight in Memphis, obviously scratched from the start there. That's Chase Petty. And I know that you are very high on Chase Petty, have been ever since the trade for him back in 2022. But another young man that I know you expect to be part of the Reds picture for years to come.
Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Chatterbox Sports. If you're like me and you always are trying to get last-minute tickets, not sure when you're going to be able to get down to the ballpark, Game Time is the best app for that. The best last-minute deals. Even if you wait till the last minute, you can still find deals sometimes even better than you would have found earlier in the week. Some of my favorite features of Game Time is they have all-in pricing. It shows you your total with fees before checking out. They have a panoramic seat view in their app. You can see exactly where your seat is, get a great view and layout of the land. They also have event cancellation protection, automatic full refunds for events that are canceled and not rescheduled. And as always, the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CBOX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CBOX, CBOX, for $20 off. What time is it? Game Time. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how much he impacts the Reds right now in this year, but he is a top 100 prospect. Just started cracking the list. He's 99 right now on MLB Pipeline. Reds number 6 overall prospect. He was the return for Sonny Gray. He's still incredibly young. He's only 22 years old. He's had an up and down minor league career. He's just recently started striking out and missing a lot more bats than he was, which was a little bit surprising at times early in his minor league career with the Reds, because he has such a great fastball that he wasn't missing as many bats. I mean, he had a stretch down at where was it at? Down in Double-A, where he was striking out less than 9 batters per 9 innings. And now he's up this year 10.6 per 9 innings. And he had some clunkers, but he's also had some really good starts. His last start, 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Of course, we saw him in spring training dominate the Dodgers A lineup, which again, it was spring training, but still, that was pretty exciting to see. So he's got all the talent in the world. Fastball can hit up to about 97, maybe 98 miles per hour. Sinker, slider, cutter, and changeup. When all his pitches are working, he's really, really good. So again, this will just be a spot start. If you want to talk a little bit here, Craig, about kind of what I think the Reds are doing here, my best guess in terms of pitching, we can talk about that here in a second. But this will probably just be a one-off start for Petty, but it'll be a nice taste of the big leagues for him. Probably give him a little bit more motivation the rest of the year. And if the Reds are already using an option on him here, I'm pretty sure he'll be back at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of other guys down there in the minor leagues that they could have used that option on if they didn't believe that Chase Petty was going to be at least a viable option for them throughout the rest of the year. But I mean, Chase Petty is a kid that, quite frankly, has been heavily regarded ever since he was in high school. I mean, obviously drafted out of high school, he wouldn't be in the position he's in now if he wasn't. But um, I remember, and even when I was looking up some information about him earlier, you know, news stories about him from when he was 17, throwing 102 miles an hour and, blowing kids out of the water back in high school even. And then obviously once the Reds acquired him back in 2022 for Sonny Gray, I know you were immediately excited about the prospects and what the Reds were getting in return for Sonny Gray. So definitely a name that I've been keeping an eye on, and has definitely developed his pitch mix over the last couple of years. You mentioned that the fastball nowadays, more so in the 95 to 97 range, can get it up there a little bit faster if needed. But um, you know, truly a pitcher now versus back then when he was just blowing the ball past guys. And as you mentioned, when he's on. And was really looking forward to seeing him pitch tonight. I'll have to watch him on television tomorrow instead. But excited for him, and excited for him and Tyler to make that trip together and be able to debut together. And you mentioned it, but it is interesting. Obviously the easy or the other option that the Reds had was to just move to Tuesday's starter into Wednesday's slot and keep everything else as is. But instead, they're going to bump some things around and have Chase Petty start probably game 2 tomorrow. But what are you thinking in terms of the rotation and how this all kind of plays out over the course of the next 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, well, the Reds don't have an off day till May 12th, so they just would have been kicking the can down the bucket if they just would have tried to keep everyone starting. They would have, I think Sunday would have been the time where you have no one that's on normal rest. I think if I'm doing my days and my calendar right. So you would have had to have brought Petty up or someone else, I think, on Sunday. And so it just made sense to do it on Wednesday because Petty was supposed to start on Tuesday. He's already, getting prepared to start, so it's not really changing too much out of his routine. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it also makes a lot of sense if the Reds are strategically doing this. Reds talked about managing Andrew Abbott's workload. Abbott is currently not listed as a starter. The Reds have Singer and TBD on Wednesday, but it's going to be Petty. Thursday they have Hunter Green. Friday they have Nick Martinez. Saturday they have Nick Lodolo, and then Sunday they have TBD. So I'm assuming that Abbott is that TBD on Sunday, unless God forbid there's some sort of injury we don't know about. But managing Abbott's innings is I think a good thing. And then B, the Washington Nationals. I don't know if any of you've looked at their lineup. It is lefty, 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 and like a bunch of switch hitters. I mean, they have the most left-handed lineup in baseball, so it would really set up well for Abbott to start against the Nationals. You don't push Hunter Green back to the Nationals. I think Hunter Green probably better for him to pitch against the Cardinals. So I think it helps you overall as well. So I think that also might have played a part of the strategy there. But this is a big day here on Wednesday for the Reds, Craig. I mean, without having an off day till May 12th, I mean, that is a week and a half away at this point. Really hope that Petty can at least give you 4 innings. You hope that Singer of all the guys is probably the one you're the most confident in, knock on wood. But you hope those guys can give you some length so you're not going into Thursday with a beat-up bullpen and then maybe having to make an additional move to try to get up another fresh arm just to kind of survive.
Well, I know there was some conversation in the Chatterbox Discord today about how quickly the Reds decided to postpone Tuesday's game. You have to wonder if they weren't eagerly anticipating or hoping for an opportunity like this to pop up, because I'm not in Cincinnati anymore. I don't know exactly how the rain played out, but it appeared as if the rain was going to clear out after 8 or 8:30 p.m. Cincinnati. So the fact that they decided to postpone it instead of just sit it out and wait out a rain delay may actually have been somewhat strategic. in that decision-making process for them to do it so quickly and not even bring the guys to the park. Just tell them, hey, stay home. We're not going to play tonight. Rest up, take your day off. We're going to take advantage of this and kind of realign the lineup. I wonder if it doesn't play into that.
Now, Craig, I'm going to take on a little history lesson here. If there's one
boy.
team in Major League Baseball that would deserve a little bit of manipulation with the rain, it's the St. Louis Cardinals. Because I remember back in the day, Tony La Russa and Dusty Baker, who did not like each other at all, Reds were playing in St. Louis, and the Reds brought out their starting pitcher. I don't even remember who it was. And the Cardinals decided to use a reliever in the first inning, which back in those days, that was unheard of. There was no opener. And the reliever threw one inning, then the Reds pitcher came in and threw one inning, and then there was a 2-hour rain delay, and the Reds burned their starting pitcher. 2-hour rain delay ends. Tony La Russa brings in his starter in the second inning. So you know what? This is like about 14 years later in the making, St. Louis. So you had it coming.
That's so I forgot about that.
That's one of those baseball things you'll never forget. It had to be like around 2012, 2013, something like that.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find out anything about that. But that was a history of the epic 2013 Cardinals rain delay. No, that wasn't it. Anyway, I do remember that game. I remember that being a thing. And it's funny that you remember that and call that out. I can't believe that you just remember that off the top of your head and was like,
I'm sick.
Karma. Yeah. Anyway, anything else Major League Baseball related before we get into Reds MILB, Nick?
No, I think we covered it all.
Let's do it.
All right, Reds MILB. We'll start off with Triple-A. I'll just kind of run through the numbers here, then we'll get a little bit more, Craig, about your observations. Louisville falls 9-6 to Memphis. The Bats now 14-13 on the season, but they did turn a triple play, which I'm excited to hear about that, Craig. I don't know if you ever saw a triple play. I've never saw a triple play. Tyler Stephenson 0 for 2, did have 2 walks, also had 2 hard hit balls. But Craig says don't believe that, so we'll hear about that in a second. Will Benson 0 for 4 with the walk. Benson struggling a little bit of late. Rhys Hines, big day, 2 for 4, hit his 5th home run of the year, a double and a walk. The double hit harder than the home run. Double hit 106.2 off the bat. Ivan Johnson 0 for 4, Will Banfield 2 for 4. Sam Moll threw an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs. Fastball, though, does look good. The velocity's been much better, averaging 93.3. Did get 3 whiffs on 8 swings. Luis May threw a scoreless inning, just gave up 1 hit. Fastball down a little bit, only hit 100.1 miles per hour. But you love to see he threw 9 of his 16 pitches for strikes, and May is now not allowed a walk in his last 3 appearances, following when he allowed 4 walks back on April 19th. And how about Reiver Sanmartin? 2 shutout innings from Reiver. He now has a 1.93 ERA so far for the Bats. So, Craig, take it away. What was your kind of observations from seeing the Louisville Bats out in Memphis?
Yeah, the Memphis Redbirds. Well, look, I'll just start by saying, obviously, before I even get there, disappointment right off the bat, because, me and you had been texting for a couple of days trying to figure out which game would be the best to go to. Excited to go see Chase Petty. Doesn't happen. Instead, I get the starting pitcher, Drew Parrish, everybody's favorite prospect, I know. Drew Parrish, now 0-2 with a 7.36 ERA on the season. Gotta say, did not blow me away by any means. And then, of course, they turn to the lanky lefty, Evan Kravitz, and I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, man, I went from hoping to watch, 6+ innings from Chase Petty, and now I'm turning around and watching 1 1/3 innings from Drew Parrish and Evan Kravitz, and thought I was in for a long night. I think the first 4 innings took 2.5 hours. It felt like definitely a minor league baseball pace. But then, as you mentioned, they turned to Reiver San Martin, looked really good. Yasser Zulueta looked pretty good. Really impressed with Luis May. Made a Redbirds batter look really silly at one point. Threw him an off-speed pitch. The guy was a million miles ahead of it. So much so that he lost his bat and threw it into the net over the Reds dugout. And it was on a strike 3, and he just didn't even look at the bat, just walked away embarrassed. So definitely loved seeing Luis May. Looked really good. Definitely some pop on his fastball. Joe Lasorsa looked pretty good too. I know a guy that major league experience, and obviously an opportunity for him at some point in the Reds bullpen if need be. So good to see him. And then Lenny Torres looked fine as well. But from a pitching perspective, certainly Luis May stood out amongst everybody else, not only just in terms of what you saw from the actual pitching, but just, definitely a force to be reckoned with, standing out there on the mound, 6'5", 235 pounds. And when he's, following up Yasser Zulueta, and then he's followed shortly after by Sam Maul, you can definitely feel the difference in the presence with Luis May on the mound. So it was fun to see that. Offensively, like I mentioned, I didn't love what I saw out of Tyler Stephenson today. I did like his eye, but just the swing didn't look great to me. You mentioned he had a couple hard hit balls, including in the first inning, a fly out to center field at 101 miles an hour. He didn't stand out to me. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's not ready, or he is, but it just felt very upper body with his swing, and wasn't necessarily using his full body. So be interesting to see how that plays out. Reese Hines, on the other hand, definitely stood out. Had a double in the first inning, 106 off the bat. You mentioned his home run earlier, which wasn't even the hardest hit ball he had on the evening. But he definitely stood out. And again, appreciate him giving a high five to my daughter after the game as well. So shout out to him. The other one that I know people in the Discord were interested in was Ivan Johnson. Not a great night from Ivan Johnson by any means. 3 ground ball outs, all pretty weakly hit, and then a strikeout in the 9th that, again, kind of looked like the Reds batters, quite frankly, were kind of checked out in the 9th already. So some ugly at-bats there in the 9th. But didn't get a chance to really see a whole lot from Ivan Johnson tonight, unfortunately, with the 3 ground outs. But nonetheless, a fun experience. Got a chance to sit right there in the front row next to the Reds dugout. So had the guys right in front of us warming up in the on deck circle, and it was a fun night. And my daughter got a ball after the game from one of the assistant coaches, so she was very happy and wouldn't shut up on the way home either. So
There you go.
all in all, a good night.
All right, good stuff. All right, run through the rest of the Reds MILB here. Double-A, the Chattanooga Lookouts, they lost 10-2 to Montgomery. Lookouts now 10-11 on the season. Sal Stewart, 2 for 4. Then a whole bunch of 0 for 4s. Hector Rodriguez, Edwin Arroyo, and Ethan O'Donnell all 0 for 4. Hector Rodriguez had his 12-game hit streak snapped. Michael Trotwine, 2 for 3. He hit his second home run of the year. And a really tough outing from Andrew Moore. Gave up 4 runs, only threw 15 of his 30 pitches for strikes. Moore looked really good. He hadn't allowed a run over his first 6 1/3 innings entering Tuesday. But a tough day for Andrew Moore, the talented lefty, part of the return for Luis Castillo. All right, down to High A, the Dayton Dragons, they lost again, 12-6 to Fort Wayne. Dragons now just 8-14 on the season, but good day from Ricky Cabrera, and he needed it. 3 for 4. He entered play hitting just $154, 250 on base percentage, 215 slugging. So Ricky Cabrera really needed that. He's the top Reds prospect down at Dayton. Carlos Jorge and Leo Balcazar and Yerlin Confidant all 1 for 5. John Michael Fail, though, 2 for 3, drove in 3 runs. He's got an 11-game hitting streak. I tell you what, at some point we might have to start recognizing this guy. He had a great year last year, hitting .304 so far this season. And then a tough day for Nestor Laurent. 4 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks. You don't usually see Nestor Laurent struggle with his command like that. He struggled a little bit getting promoted here to high A this season. He has a 5.74 ERA in 4 games this year. And then last but not least, the only winners, the Daytona Tortugas. They won 3-1 over Lakeland. Tortugas now back to 500 at 11-11, and Carlos Sanchez just keeps on hitting. 4 for 4 with a double. He's reached base in all 19 games this season. Now batting .406 with an OPS over 1,100. Carlos Sanchez, man, what an incredible start to the season for him. Alfredo Duno, 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. Then Sammy Stafora was 1 for 4. And then on the pitching side, another great start from Ty Floyd. Really exciting stuff for him after missing all of last year, injured after getting drafted number 38 overall in 2023. 4 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. How about these numbers, Craig? 2.12 ERA through 5 starts, 22 strikeouts, and just 4 walks in 17 innings pitched. He's only allowed 6 hits. He has a whip of 0.59. Ty Floyd is certainly getting it done.
Getting it done indeed. Mentioned it earlier, but let's go ahead and break down what's on deck for the Reds on Wednesday. Obviously, a couple debuts, and let's see who they'll be facing.
All right, game 1, the 12:40 game. It'll be Brady Singer, 4-0 with a 3.62 ERA against Miles Michaelis. Michaelis comes in 0-2 with a 5.70 ERA. Singer, he allowed 2 runs over 6 innings at Miami in his last start, 8 strikeouts and no walks, so that was really good. Singer, I mentioned this yesterday, so I won't belabor it too much, but he's only made 1 career start against the Cardinals. That came back in 2020 in his rookie season. And the active Cardinals, only 1 batter's ever faced him. Wilson Contreras is 1 for 4. Just wild that he's only faced the Cardinals once since he was with the Royals from 2021 to 2024. And the Cardinals played the Royals 18 times over those 4 seasons, so he just must have missed them every time. Miles Michaelis threw 6 shutout innings in his last start against the Brewers. Michaelis might have a 5.70 ERA, but he's kept his team really in 4 of his 5 starts. ERA is probably inflated a little bit. Gave up 8 earned runs in 2 2/3 against the Red Sox. Michaelis 5-8 with a 5.80 career ERA in 19 starts against the Reds. 5.91 ERA in 8 starts at GABP. And the Reds really beat around Michaelis in his only start in 2024 against them. 4 1/3 innings, 12 hits, 10 runs, 9 of them earned. Active Reds, 299 average against Michaelis, 883 OPS. TJ Friedl, 5 for 14 with a homer. Spencer Steer, 6 for 12 with a homer. Gavin Lux, 2 for 5 with a homer. And Ellie De La Cruz is 4 for 11. Jake Fraley, surprisingly, 0 for 10. All right, and then in game number 2, of course, we'll have Chase Petty. We talked plenty about him. Reds will be going up against the lefty Steven Matz. Now, Matz started the season in the Cardinals bullpen kind of as their long man. He made a start on April 16th, his only start of the season. Then he got skipped the last time through the rotation, now rejoining the rotation. His only start was really good, surprising that he got skipped. 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts against the Astros. But overall, it's been a tough time for Matz with the Cardinals, battled a lot of injuries. He's in the final year of a 4-year, $44 million deal. Career 4-1 with a 4.40 ERA against the Reds in 6 games, 5 of those starts, but he has not faced the Reds since 2023. And the active Reds, 11 for 31, 355 average, 956 OPS. Matt McClain is homered against him. Austin Hayes, 4 for 14, and Spencer Steer is 2 for 3 against Steven Matz.
While you were going over tomorrow's or today's projected starters, I took the liberty of doing some research, Nick, and pulled up an article from April 23rd
There we go.
of 2011, a game in which the Reds and Cardinals were set to face off in St. Louis. Then Cardinals manager Tony La Russa scratched Kyle McClellan from his scheduled start due to the threat of inclement weather, instead sending Miguel Batista out for the first inning, who threw only 6 pitches before play was stopped. Only 6 pitches, Nick. Rain delay of 2 hours and 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Edinson Volquez had already started his warm-up routine for the Reds, never had a chance to enter the game. After play resumed, McClellan came out to pitch for the Cardinals. Meanwhile, Dusty Baker turned to Matt Maloney. Maloney only went 2+ innings, gave up 3 runs on 8 hits. Meanwhile, McClellan, 2 runs over 6+ innings for his 3rd win of the season. Dusty Baker after the game. It's a really tough start. The information that we received was probably not the same information they received, or else we wouldn't have started Volquez in the first place. We were told there was going to be a window of opportunity there. That window lasted about 3 minutes. So no better reason to sweep the Cardinals than that, if you don't ask me. But only time will tell, Nick. And as always, Nick and Trace will be live in the 9th inning to recap both games from Wednesday. I assume you'll just do one show.
Yeah, well, not to leave something up in the air, but we're supposed to have a pregame show, of course, on Wednesday for the night game. The guys that are doing the pregame show are going to kind of recap game 1. I'm not sure when they're going to go live. Normally they would go live about 5:30. They work and stuff like for a living like most people. So as soon as they can actually get something up and going, they're going to do a live show at some point in between game 1 and game 2. And then me and Trace will be on in the 9th inning of game 2 of Chase Petty's debut. And we'll recap the full day, but you will have something in between. But that's why, Craig, on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, you have to click that bell in the top right corner, turn on notifications so you're notified anytime that we go live.
Absolutely. Got to subscribe. And as always, make sure you follow Chatterbox Sports on all the social media channels for in-game updates, highlights, and more. And we'll bring you all the best coverage of Reds baseball and all of Cincinnati sports. Be sure to tune in to Off the Bench Monday through Friday, 10 through 12 p. Chatterbox Bearcats has you covered, and Chatterbox Bengals as well. But for Nick Kirby, this has been Chatterbox Reds. I'm Craig Sandlin. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Reds.